Our purpose in life, our happiness, our sense of fulfillment comes from areas where we do have that innate drive that matches the things we learn, our behavior. When these two align, then we're doing something happily. It's not a chore anymore. It's something you enjoy doing.
Hello, everyone. I am Randy Sparks, and this is the Sparks of Gratitude podcast. Welcome back. We are so grateful for everybody that chooses to spend a little bit of your time and join with us. Gratitude saves and changes lives. So we have an amazing guest who I've met in the last few months named Dr. Antoine Eid. Welcome to the conversation.
Thank you, Randy. Thank you for having me. I want to thank Jeff Griffin first for introducing us. Jeff is one of the most amazing people I've met in my life, and he always introduces me to amazing people like yourself. So I'm really happy we're here today.
Likewise, I'm so grateful. Yeah, several months ago, Jeff Griffin, who we've had as a guest on this podcast, introduced me to Dr. Eid, saying that you've got to meet this guy. And the two of them are actually working in a joint project, which we will definitely talk about today, called Meet Yourself. But first,
Yes.
I would love, Dr. Eid, for you to describe a little bit about who you are and what is your life's work.
So I am a very intuitive person, both by my genetics and by my nurture and by skill. I know not many people start introducing themselves that way. Most of us introduce ourselves in terms of what we do in life.
Mm.
But this is who I am. And I came to understand that after years of trying to change that part of me, developing other aspects of my personality, thinking that being intuitive is a weakness. So the day I have adopted that intuition as a talent, as part of who I am, that led to what I do. And what I do is I help people find their purpose through discovering themselves, the hidden parts of themselves. And I'm happy to talk about that during this session, but we're made of more than what we think we're made of. We're made of so many amazing things.
Yes, I love this idea. I love the way that you introduce yourself because you are correct that I and many other people focus on identifying who we are by what we do. But what about what is our true identity? Right. And so I like how you opened that up. I am curious about where you've come from and how you did discover this gift and skill that you have in intuition, and then how that acceptance of that and magnifying of that has led you to where you are. Hey there, everyone. Did you know that beyond hosting the Sparks of Gratitude podcast, I am also an estate planning attorney, and I love gratitude, and my law firm is proud to sponsor this video. Since 2010, in my law practice, I have designed and delivered customized peace of mind with sophisticated estate planning made easy. So whether you need foundational estate planning, including revocable trusts, wills, powers of attorney, and healthcare directives, which is what most people need, or you might need advanced strategies such as irrevocable trust for asset protection or advanced estate tax planning, I am here to guide you every step of the way. Because at the end of the day, your peace of mind is my peace of mind. You can visit randallsparks.com and I can get started helping you plan for the future today. Now back to our podcast.
Well, I've just been through the regular human experience. We are born in environments, in families, probably in cultures, and we're raised to think that there's something that's missing in us, something that we'll always need to grow, develop, change. And we embark on this journey of endless growth and endless development. And that's amazing. I mean, we look at the other species, they wake up every morning and they go and do exactly the same thing all day long, but we don't. We have this amazing ability of learning and developing and adapting. And while we're doing that human thing, we tend to develop all the things that other people need from us. Ask a random employee, why are you taking that course? Most likely answer is, that's a job requirement, or my boss signed me up for the course. Ask any random person in a couple, why Why are you working on that personality trait? They would say it bothers my partner, so I want to make the change for them. And this is what we do. In that process, while we're developing all of these amazing skills and behaviors, we give up on a lot of who we actually are.
Mm.
And we end up sometimes a little bit too late because you see, we're closer to our nature when we're young, when we're born. And again, just before we die, you see old people, they're always sitting, wearing whatever they want, saying whatever they don't really care. They're just being themselves, right? Because we're closer to nature when, as we grow older, we want to become closer to who we are. It is us, our age, that is missing is missing the direction because we're trying to accommodate.
Trying to be
And
something for someone else.
yes, for everyone else. And what if the whole mission behind what I do is just to remind people with scientific information that, hey, there's this part of you, a part that is actually you, regardless of where you are, who you're with, this is who you are.
Okay, and so you I mean, you have this tagline online that you wanna create a world where everyone is living to their full potential as themselves, as their identity, right? Not for someone else, but who they are, correct? And there's a lot of ways to do that. I kinda read the notes in advance. I've gone through the Meet Yourself assessment, um,
Yeah.
but I'm sure many, many of our listeners have done some type of self-improvement or self-discovery where maybe they've done personality tests or some type of assessments in the past to learn a little bit about their tendencies or who they are, what might be there naturally, or strengths finders and things like that. So, talk to me a little bit about your background and coming at this from different angles of expertise to do assessments that kind of well, maybe you describe that how your assessments are different.
Sure. So I'm fortunate to come from an industry background and converted to science later. So what I've done is I've used scientific research into understanding personality, and it's not the other way around. And it came out of a need because when I was in the industry in consulting, I realized that, especially back in the days, it was all about metrics, revenue, cost, etc., all sorts of metrics. Talking about humans wasn't a thing, and that got me interested in knowing and learning more about how our brains function. And through that, I got to learn that a lot of who we are, everything, name any personality trait, is not only, as we have been taught, the result of the environment we're put in and our ability to learn, but there's a lot of genetic influence behind it. A good example of that is dog breeding. We breed dogs for character. We breed them for specific behavior. So dog breeders understand the concept of behavioral genetics very well. A Rottweiler is protective. A Great Dane is affectionate. A Pointer points and hunts. These are not physical traits. They're personality traits. And the exact same applies to humans.
Mm.
So name absolutely any characteristic, any trait. It has a genetic part. But we're too occupied thinking that whatever I learn is going to define who I am. And we start labeling ourselves at this age. I am this, I'm extrovert, I'm introvert, I am creative, I'm not social, etc. We start labeling ourselves in terms of how we behave presently. And we forget that this is the result of a series of experiences that led you to think that behaving in a certain way is going to protect me, is going to allow me to get by in an environment I choose to be in, but it doesn't really have to be who I am. It
Right.
doesn't have to be my talent. And I'm sure when we open your report, I haven't seen your report, but there's going to be a lot of that there.
So
I've
this is
done,
it. Yeah, this is
yeah,
interesting to me because, like I told you, I've taken a lot of personality tests and so on, and I've learned so much, read so much over the years about, what the experiences we have in life, and emotional traumas and things that happen along the way. kind of add to the story and the beliefs that I tell myself about myself and the world. Um, but then I'll take an assessment and learn like, oh yeah, those are my strengths or my lower level strengths. Maybe I won't say weaknesses, or these are my personality tendencies. You bring something different into this with the research, where you just described it as genetic characteristics. And so the intersection of these of, personality traits and nurture versus, genetic personality or character traits, and how do you know all this? How did you come up with this? And then how do you create the intersection of this, I guess the trifecta of helping somebody learn who they are?
So we're made of these three main components. There's everything we learn in life, which we end up thinking is what defines us. I can already see a lot of that in you through our first meeting and now, right? And I'm going to share that if you allow me a bit later.
Yes, please.
Of you trying to project and say, I am Randy Sparks, I am this. But I could also see another part the first time we spoke, which is some indications on who you are at the core, which you might be, I don't know you well enough, you might be expressing or you might be suppressing.
Mm.
So that's the other part. The other part is our motivators. And these come from two parts of us. They come from our thinking. The thinking is hidden. I'll give you an example. And there's our genetics also. Someone, I can see a guitar behind you. Someone can be musically talented, but never learned music, never played music. Their genes will always say they are musically talented. The fact that they haven't learned music will not eliminate the talent. The talent will still be there. And it's important to know if a talent is there or not. Now, if they learn music and we test their musical skills, now this is what every single other assessment tool does, is measure a level of behavior and competency in different things. What I do is I measure that as well, but I also map it with what's hidden behind the scenes. What drives a person from inside, and that's both their thinking, what's going on in their brain. Someone might say, for instance, I love being around other people. I'm driven by, I think you do have a social drive as well, because otherwise you wouldn't be doing this podcast. Why else would you be doing this podcast if not to help other people, right? Do you do it well? Do you speak well? Do you communicate properly? Do you have charisma? These become the behavioral aspects of social. They're not what drives you. So you could have a high social drive, but be really bad at social behavior when you're put with people. Or you can have amazing social skills, but go home after every time you're in a conference and say, I don't want to be with people for 3 days because I've put too much energy into it. Right? And that's the importance of looking at these two in parallel. Because our purpose in life, our happiness, our sense of fulfillment comes from areas where we do have that innate drive that matches the things we learn, our behavior. When these two align, then we're doing something happily. It's not a chore anymore. It's something you enjoy doing. Just like probably when you play the guitar.
Okay, and so finding overlap between those two. So remind everybody to clarify, what are those two things we're looking at? What drives us, and then what we have competency in.
I call them
And
the motivators and the competencies. Yes.
the motivators and competencies. And those are two of the things that are evaluated in the Meet Yourself assessment.
That's right. We do a DNA test. So we have, let me see if I have, we send a swab collection kit, just like the one you've done.
Yep.
We do a cheek swab, send that to the lab in a very secure way, and identify 54 different genetic propensities towards different behaviors. Things like leadership, self-awareness, social behavior, creativity, and so on. We also do music, sports and fitness, and different learning and cognition predispositions. While we're waiting for the DNA sequencing results, you take 2 short assessments. One will measure your thinking motivators, we call that the brain print, and the other one measures the competencies. So two questionnaires and one DNA test, and they're mapped together to generate the analysis that we're going to show a little part of during this.
Yeah, and I'm glad you introduced that too, because then there's some context when I share my screen here, and we'll go through the assessment that I took that takes all that information and brings it together. Something I'm curious about is this is really where you have so much expertise and background in the science and the neuroscience and bringing the data into this. I'm curious about, and I wonder if there's other people who wonder, well, how do you know? How do you know that the predictive elements of the genetic test that these
There's no
character
prediction.
traits are there? Okay. So yeah, so talk to me about that.
There's no prediction. Your DNA is not your future. You having, as I said, you being tall does not automatically mean you are an NBA player. There's still the learning and the technique and all of that's missing. But what we're trying to say here is that if you choose to become an NBA player, wouldn't it help if you have that important genetic component?
So the description here, you brought up dog breeding, where there are dogs that are bred for specific characteristics, for specific
Yeah.
traits or skills, to be pointers, hunters, guardians, whatever that may be. But there could be a breed of dog that has those innate genetic characteristics that is terrible at it because they weren't
Trained.
trained, right? And
Yes.
given
Right.
the ability to blossom with direction.
Right.
Okay. So I'm pulling that together. Is there anything, maybe give a little bit of your professional background in coming into this, and then I'd like to pull up the assessment, my report, and then you kind of walk me through this, and we'll share it with everybody else. I mean, it's my personal report. I mean, it took my DNA test and my brain print and competency assessments, but the report's really interesting. And you have not seen it yet. And so this is why I'm excited. This is gonna be new for you, and then your,
Yes.
commentary on it for me, and then everybody else to see it all at once too. So for one, how many people have you assessed and done tests like these with? Um,
So in a professional setting, I've done over 20,000
mhm.
of these assessments, and I've debriefed more than 2,000 people face to face, just like we're going to be doing now. And so my background is in neuroscience and behavioral genetics. And I created Meet Yourself, which is the world's first personality assessment that combines these three elements. I'm also the founder and the creator of the Human Index, which is a global index that calculates how much of your genetic traits represent behaviors that would probably not be replaced by artificial intelligence. Because I believe that these are going to be the value of human beings in the future.
Mm.
And I've recently been having fun publishing the world's first human personality traits dictionary. It has 500 traits with a short definition and the percentage of genetic influence for each one of them. So,
Okay, and so when you say percentage of genetic influence, is that what precisely does that mean? Is it something that you can predict with 70% accuracy that this is a character trait that someone may have, or how
no,
would you describe that?
no, that's more the percentage of heritability, how much of that trait, for instance. So most of our personality traits have somewhere between 30 and 70% genetic influence or heritability,
Mhm.
which means that you take any trait, say it has 40% heritability, it means that it's influenced 40% by your genetics and 60% by the environment.
Okay. And you've uncovered with many of these different traits the percentage of heritability that might
Yeah. No,
influence
not me. Not me.
the
There have
data.
been hundreds of people researching this for a long time. There's 24,000 research papers behind this. I have not
Yeah.
made any genetic discovery.
Okay, and you're sharing this information that exists.
I'm just putting it together and trying to present it in a non-scientific language.
Mm. Yeah, that's the kind of language I need, and I appreciate that you're doing that. Okay, so I would like to jump in and pull up my assessment, but I'm gonna let you guide me here and tell me what to share, what to go, and then
Sure.
you can kind of narrate, ask me questions, and talk to the viewer about what it is that we're looking at. And okay, so
So
I'm gonna
there's the
share.
24-page PDF report.
So this is my
So this is
24-page meet yourself assessment or
right.
report.
So this is one of 10 reports that you will receive. So that's the first one.
Okay.
And you must have received this one with a summarized version of it, a one-pager,
Yes.
and an AI narrated video.
Correct.
All right. Yeah. So what this is doing as a first step in the analysis is taking your thinking motivators, your brain print, and mapping them with the relevant genetic predispositions and the relevant competencies. So we can start with your brain print, which should be on page 5, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, that's it.
Here.
4. 4, sorry.
4. Okay, I'm gonna come up to 4. I'm gonna zoom out so we can see this whole thing. Okay.
Right. And I'm interested because I know you've been through this debrief with Jeff before. So what's your opinion about this?
When I look at this, I notice, and maybe you described there's 4 different color coded things on here: reasoner, visioner, accomplisher, and socializer, and then a percentage next to it. I noticed that the first thing I see is that the lowest and the highest percentage numbers on here. So the lowest number in blue says reasoner,
Mm.
and then the highest is socializer at 37%. And then the next highest is visioner at 30%. And so explain to me what each of these means for me.
Sure. So what we're looking at right now are your 4 different thinking functions.
Mhm.
We all have them.
And so this is from the first assessment I took that figures that my
Right.
brain print is how does Randy think?
How does Randy not think? Prefer to think
Prefer to
would
think.
be,
Okay.
yeah, because this is not measuring any level of skill.
Okay.
You might be skilled at reasoning. You might have studied engineering, learned to be very cautious with your thoughts, silence your intuition, and reflect more. This will raise your reflective score on your behavioral assessment, but it wouldn't make you someone who enjoys reflection more than enjoys being intuitive. So
Okay.
I look at this and I see someone and please stop me if I go wrong. You and I have a similar brain print. I'm 51% visioner, 38% socializer, and I've got 2 thin lines for reasoner and accomplisher. And that makes both of us intuitive thinkers. That's someone who is driven by passion, by inspiration, driven by big ideas, world-changing ideas, probably more ideas that can influence and leave an impact on other people's lives. Someone who might have an artistic side, might have a tendency to procrastinate because we enjoy the creation more than the execution.
Yeah, well, I will tell you that. So here's my, maybe it's a joke or a justification, but yes, I definitely
Okay.
procrastinate. I'm a friend of procrastination, and I make this joke to people. Here's my defense of procrastination, Dr. Eid. If you wait until the last minute, how long does it take? Only a minute.
A minute. Gee, we're in the procrastination club. We are 2 procrastinators.
Right. Oh, okay, this is awesome. Okay, so continue. So you kind of shared that this is what you're seeing in this is kind of intuition and vision and maybe procrastination.
Does that mean that you do not have the left brain thinking, the reasoning, which is our logical thinking, the accomplisher, which is our more planning, organizing, efficient way of thinking? Not necessarily. We're not measuring how good or bad you are at any of these. Yeah. Does it
Um,
mean that you don't have any logical, any structural abilities? Absolutely not. It means that if you're given 2 tasks. One is that requires more creativity, fun, big picture thinking, values, etc. That's the fun part of it. When you move to execution, even though you can do it, but it probably won't give you as much joy. as the creation part. Does that resonate?
Yeah, it's like my body's tingling with how much that resonates. Well,
Yeah.
and then I'll ask this back to you is I really like what you said is this is the way I prefer to think because I believe that I am skilled at reasoning and at accomplishing things, and I in fact have accomplished many things, and I've done very difficult things, in reasoning through challenging tasks and so on. And so I've developed skills and I have the capacity for all of that. But I do enjoy much more the vision and intuition and creative side and connection. And I like that more. I feel more fulfilled on that side, but I'm willing to get the stuff done. But I feel
Yes.
like I'm heavier on the other side.
Oh my God. I love this. I love this. Thank you, Randy. And this is the big revelation here. You and I now know this about you. But if you're working with someone, if you have a boss at work, the boss is going to be looking at the performance. And they tend to think that if someone is good at something, that automatically means that we should give them more and more of that same task.
Interesting.
But being good, not realizing that if that's not a motivator of theirs, giving them more of that same task is going to lead to demotivation when we're actually thinking that we're giving them a task that will motivate them.
Right.
And then we lose that person. We don't know why. And we go to a consultant saying, or to HR and say, we have done everything right. I've been giving them everything they enjoy doing. But in fact, you've only been giving them things that they know, not the things that they prefer.
Right. It seems like there's a lot of value in understanding this about the people we share our time or our workplace or our connections with.
Absolutely. Think about, even if we don't learn this, but if you look deeply into successful relationships, they have a lot of that. You don't stay with your wife for a long time because you now think exactly alike. You're together because you learn to understand the way she thinks and
Right.
accept.
Well, yes. And so I will say this. So today we're recording this on March 19th. I mean, this might not be published for a number of weeks, but tomorrow, my wife and I, it's our 21st anniversary. And let me tell
Nice.
you, we do
Congratulations.
not think the same. But there's something we're learning over these 21 years now is, I mean, our relationship and commitment to each other goes way beyond the fact that we think differently and approach things differently. And we have it's been really clunky along the way for us to figure that out about each other and to accept that about each other as well, and then embrace it about each other. And so,
And that's what it takes to build a successful relationship.
mhm,
It's
yeah,
accepting that we're different and aligning on this difference and and not putting effort into trying to change the behavior of other people. We will not change. It will change temporarily because they are who they are.
all right. I love this. Okay, so we looked through the brain print, the way that I prefer to think based on these assessments that I've taken, and we've learned from that I am. I'm going to share this again. I am more likely to be on the visioner socializer side rather than, or I prefer that as opposed to the reasoner accomplisher side. And there's some descriptive trait underneath each of those. So let's move on to the next part, which is the other part of this analysis is the DNA analysis.
Yes.
So tell me about this. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so people can look at this and you can explain.
I also need to take a quick look
Yeah.
what we're talking about. All right, that's interesting. So, what are we looking at here? 26 different genetic predispositions. These are the result of sequencing your DNA. So, we identify 54 different genetic propensities,
Mhm.
out of which 26 are listed in this first report. The rest are going to be divided into the other 9 reports that follow. And this is saying that you were born with these genetic predispositions. So there are genes and groups of genes that influence different behaviors. Behaviors such as risk taking, which is a high for you, emotional, social, communication. If you scroll down, there's more traits such as generosity, decisiveness, self discipline, and rational thinking. So each one of these has a level of heritability, and you scored lower or higher on each one of them.
Okay.
First thing to notice here is that this is a very impressive genetic profile because you have quite a high amount of this predisposition to all of them, but you have even higher talent in some of them.
Right. So, for example, I'm noticing on this that my highest on the genetic analysis, emotional seems to be risk taker is very high, emotional is very high. So that what says I have an innate potential to recognize and understand emotions and use that awareness to manage myself and relationships with others. I could have told you that before I looked at this.
Yes. Okay.
And I mean, my wife would have told you that about me. And, generosity and innate potential to happily give support. I'm looking to see if there's any that seem none of them look like I'm low on any of these, but I'll say maybe on the lower side of it's kind of on the mid-level on confident, mid-level on driven or
Let's
execution.
let's play a game before you continue.
Okay.
Show me a quick glimpse of the uh, behavioral, and let me
Okay.
see if I can complete your sentence.
Okay. So let me zoom out on this
Just
so
a
you can.
moment. Enough. I think I'm ready to complete your sentence. Have you found it? Have you found it? Were you surprised to see that you scored high on risk taking, for example?
I I was a little surprised.
Okay. Why do you think I am asking this?
I don't know, but I feel I mean, I'll just tell you how I feel. I feel nervous and self-conscious and I have a fear of failure. And so when it says high at risk taking, I say, "Really?" Like, I'm afraid of everything.
This is what I figured from. This is why I asked you to move to this.
Okay.
The first time I met you, I saw the ambitious, intuitive, people loving, fun person. And I had so many on it, just shows how transparent and open you are when you communicate. It's not only me being an expert at this, but I also want to give you the credit for being so open when you talk about yourself. I also saw someone who has learned the need to be cautious.
Mm.
So if I look at this, when I see someone who is genetically intuitive, who has intuitive thinking motivators, and then I look at their behavioral assessment and I see that the one set of skills that tops the scores is reflective. It tells me the story and emotional discipline. It tells me the story of someone who is intuitive but learned through experiences to be more skeptical and cautious. And it immediately gives me some hints. It could be fear of failure, could be fear of being criticized, it could be not being able to match a role model, someone in your life. It's usually a father or a mother who was a role model, someone successful, probably powerful, strong personality. And maybe you grew up thinking, I might not be able to match this. So I need to be a little bit more cautious with the way I approach things. This starts building that internal reflection before it comes out. So less impulsivity, less risk taking, more processing internally, validating internally before it leads to action. It could be also emotional, social pain through experiences with others. Maybe somebody betrayal, or somebody who took credit for your work, etc. I'm just giving the most common examples of what can lead someone who is born intuitive. That's your talent.
Mm.
Social visual is your talent, is right there. You have no scientific proof, but learned that I need to always be controlling my intuition because it might not lead me to good places. So let me think and validate first. And that led to the development of higher reflective. I feel you did not hear me. Like
I got you. It led me to high reflective.
a life taught you the need to develop that logic. You're a smart, intelligent person. But abstract reasoning, IQ, is one part of our intelligence, and it dominates the conversation between your EQ, your intuition, and your IQ. You've just said about yourself, and I saw your face shining when you said, I feel other people's emotions. I am intuitive. And I saw a little bit of fear in your eyes when I was talking about how reflective you have become. Because that's life. Life pushes us to through experiences to develop these skills. It's a survival mechanism. But how much of that today aligns with who you are, with the great, amazing talent that you have, which is being this highly intuitive person? What do you
Yeah,
think?
there's so much in that, that like, this is why I was so excited to have you take a glance at this because having not seen it, just with your experience to be able to look at it and say, "Oh, I know what I'm seeing right now," and then connect that with our conversation. And I really hope that people that are listening are interested in this because this is, guys, this is just fascinating to me to experience what this Meet Yourself assessment report is revealing to me and how much of it I say, well, duh, obviously, right? And then the parts that are surprising to me, as you're asking me about that and pointing out the reflective and describing that, maybe I'll be a little bit more detailed about that. Is yes, I think I have some kind of learned expectations or pain or emotional things in the past where I say, I didn't like how that felt when I was young. And so I'm going to be cautious. And I've created some rules for myself during lifetime and that I've been uncovering to say, no, I need to keep myself safe right here because I don't want to feel embarrassed or I don't want to feel shame. And if I take this risk, I felt that before and I don't want that to happen again. Right. And so even though I have this maybe innate emotional and intelligence or connection or vision or intuition, I I I'm cautious. And so here's an example of this, Dr. Eid.
Yes, sir.
At least 2 years before I started this podcast, I decided that I needed to start this podcast. And I knew it, but I didn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I even told people about it.
Love it.
I even told people, I even bought the equipment for it and it sat because I said, I'm going to start this podcast. It's meaningful. The principle and practice of gratitude changes and saves people's lives, and it has for mine. And this is something I want to share with people. And if the only person that listens to it is me, it's saving a life, right?
Yeah.
But you know what I didn't do? I didn't turn it on and press record. And so it took me 2 years of that reflective reasoning, kind of blocking myself from just get off your butt and take that step forward and just do it, right? What if you fail? Big deal. So there's one of many examples.
Wow. Wow. Thank you. And that's just one area where we could identify this misalignment between something that you are born with. You are blessed with an intuition that many people want to have. It's like a talent that's sitting there. You know, every time you hold a tennis racket, you beat anyone. You beat all the pros, but for some reason you do not want to practice and play. How many people, how many sports people, he's wasting the talent. It's the exact same thing. We are talented at different things. You're talented at almost everything, but you have higher talent and higher potential in certain areas. And these actually, now I understand a lot more. This podcast is not the result of only reflection and experience, but this podcast is part of who you are. It's part of your genetic blueprint. It is that intuition about people that led you to your empathy, that led you to want to help other people through this. Things don't come just out of a random place. We totally neglect the influence of our roots and blame it all on those last few events that we can remember. Otherwise, we skip a big period of our life and we remember the last few and a lot of what happened during childhood. Everything in between, we tend to skip, right? We even lose memory of that period sometimes. But it's not only that, there's also what we were born with, and that plays a very big role. And we can see it. It's right there. It says I am Randy Sparks. I am a highly intuitive person. My mission, my purpose is to help other people somehow. It could be through this podcast. It could be something else that you're going to use your creative imagination to create later. But this, just like just like any other species, we're meant to be doing something in this, playing a role in this world. Just like the worker ant and the queen ant, and we are meant to be playing a role in this world. And your role is probably helping people become a better version. So having me on this podcast is a step in that direction, and all these amazing guests that you had before. Now, our worst enemy is not the lies that other people tell us. It's the lies that we keep telling ourselves. All the what ifs that you've just given an example
Yeah.
of one of the what ifs. What if I fail? What
Mhm.
if people will criticize? What if? And it leads to every time you sacrifice something, automatically gaining something else. You give up on running, you're sitting down. You give up on hunting with a spear. You're hunting with a spear. Now you're gaining that distance. When you're hunting, you're giving up on the ability to run faster. And they say you give up on your intuition. Your amygdalas are activated. You're developing your analytical skills, the protective part of your brain, and it shows. Your your competencies report is saying, today I am a highly reflective person. I use my abstract reasoning to analyze, validate, and make sure that the next step is the correct one, which is great. Congratulations. But is it coming at the expense of the other voice inside you that tells you it feels right? I like that person. If he feels nice. There's the other voice that says, yes, but let us wait. Maybe he's this and maybe he's going to do that. And the interesting thing in this is that while we think that this is only protecting me, there's no harm in this. I'm just protecting myself. It's not true. There's a lot of harm because every time we're protecting ourselves, we're altering the journey of the other person. We're putting the other person in a position where they have to prove that they're worthy of the trust. They have to prove that they're a good person. And it's already changing the dynamics. We're infusing this toxicity without why justifying it with, I'm just only trying to protect myself and don't want to go through the pain again. And now we infuse this toxicity in a relationship that was probably supposed to be an amazing one without this. Does it make sense?
This is beautiful. You're making me emotional, listening to this.
Oh,
And we already learned that that's one of my that I prefer to think emotionally, right? This is so great. Now, I can't give it all away because we don't have enough time here. I would love to go through my entire assessment. I mean, if you think that there's something important to take a look at and highlight, I love what you've pointed out so far. And I would like to just encourage people listening to check out Meet Yourself. I'll put the link in here. And to go through this exercise, to go through this process, it's very revealing, as you've seen in a small sense, looking at my own, but also the meaningful work that Dr. Eid's doing. And, you know, I'd like to hear from you, maybe if you could describe some of the inspiring things that you've seen in people since you've been doing this with Meet Yourself.
I really want to thank you for being who you are, first of all. Don't want to run out of time at the end and forget this important bit. You're a genuine, amazing person. It, and I followed my intuition from the start, and it told me how genuine and true you are, and I can see that with every interaction with you.
Yeah.
Uh, and I'd love to support you with your mission. You're doing an amazing work here. I've learned so much from assessing people, but I've also done a couple of thousand of one-on-one debriefs, and these taught me a lot. The one thing that is worth mentioning here is that out of the 20,000 tests that I've done, I haven't seen one that has no talent. It's impossible. We all have a talent of some sort. The other thing is that I've heard a lot of labeling. The most common two are I am not creative or I lack imagination. People tell me this a lot. And the most common answer I receive when I ask, why do you say that? Is my husband keeps telling me that, or my children keep criticizing my imagination. So imagine all of these labels that we've been accumulating. I can't do this, I'm not good at that. And then they look at their genetic profile and they see high creativity. And it reminds them that, yes, this is who you are. This is who you were as a child before life started happening. And they start having these revelations and memories of, yes, when I was a child, I used to enjoy this and that. I used to be very good at this, but somehow I forgot about it. The other thing that I keep hearing is I don't trust people anymore. We look at their thinking motivators, highly social. Look at their genetic profile, social is the highest part of their nature. And there's a story there. What are you trying to protect yourself from? There's a British psychoanalyst that is not very known, but I like him a lot. His name is Bion. Last name is Bion. He talks about without memory or desire. What would every single new interaction be without the bias of everything that happened in your past or the desire of what you want out of that relationship? If we treat it as a blank page and build it and write it, wouldn't it most probably be different than what we make it if we infuse all of these other things into it? And this is the reality of how that relationship should have been in the first place. So we're living in all of these biases. We don't realize how much we're crippled by what people want from us and how much we think that if we're not this, then there's something wrong with us. Growth mindset, development, these big words that we keep thinking at, these are like amazing things. Yes, they are. As long as they are honoring who you are. Why grow into something you're not? What this is not how life is supposed to be lived. We're supposed to be enjoying everything we do, not going to work from 8 to 5 to please the boss. I saw something on social media the other day. Not a big fan. I don't browse a lot, but I just this guy saying um, saw this is a guy in a Ferrari and said, "Nice car. What do you do for a living?" And he said, "I want to give you an advice. If you work hard and work smart and go to work every morning and have amazing results and generate revenue to your company, one day your boss is going to get one of those."
Yeah. It's hilarious. Thank you. This is the best way to start my day. So, well, for one, Dr. Eid and I were talking before we started recording that, I mean, this is first thing in the morning for me where I'm recording, and Dr. Eid is in Lebanon, and it's in the evening for him. So we're, 10 hours apart from each other or so. But I'm so grateful for you to join this conversation, to spend your time on this, but most of all, to spend your time doing something that's meaningful and helping people to understand themselves. And uh, for my part, this has opened up a new ability and willingness for me to believe in myself, and just acknowledgement and awareness of, yeah, that's in there, and to notice those thought patterns instead of necessarily following them. Right? I'm gonna give a little bit more weight to my intuition, and
Wow.
I'm excited about this. So I thank you for that very much,
Thank
and
you.
um, I hope this isn't the last time. I'm gonna go back through my assessment once we're done today, but I'm just so grateful that our listeners got to meet you today, Dr. Eid. And then one last question I want to ask you before we head out. Obviously, this is the Sparks of Gratitude podcast, and I often ask people, what does gratitude mean to you?
That's a beautiful question. And I would like to put it in the context of what we were discussing. Are we grateful for who we are? or on a constant quest to become what we are not. We have so much to be grateful for, so much talent, so much beauty in, and uniqueness and value to bring. We've just been raised to look at the deficiencies, not at what actually exists, at the treasures, at the talents. There's enough to be grateful for. It's just a matter of finding it and giving it some attention. Every single one of the people that I, just like you right now, that I had the chance to talk to when they went through the experience, took this seriously and started implementing changes in the direction of I want to honor who I am. I followed up with them over the years, and they've become these amazingly happy people. And that is the purpose of life. Happiness. I've got that on my wrist. Happiness is the truth. Everything else does not really matter. It's just a tool. If we're not happy doing whatever it is, and to be happy, we need to be us. The difference between two people who have been playing the piano for 20 years. One is musically talented, the other one is just intelligent enough to learn the piano. If you're listening to both of them on the radio, you'll hear the exact same piece of music. But go watch them live. The one with the talent, you will see it. You will know it. There's that soul. They're pouring their soul on the piano. That's talent. That's the difference. It's not the quality of the music. It's us enjoying seeing someone being happy doing something. And we're all supposed to be doing that. And that will give us a feeling of gratitude. Quick personal example. Life taught me that everything that I had been trying to change in myself actively was kept telling myself, stop being impulsive, stop taking risks without reflecting, stop being sensitive, etc. And I was trying to build all the skills that can help me stop being that. Until one day I realized that being impulsive, being intuitive are my actual talents. And the day I embraced them as the strong part of me, life started giving me things. I started creating things. I can't remember the last time I woke up feeling that I have work because I'm doing something that is just a natural thing for me to every day. And that required being grateful for who I am.
I love that. Be grateful for who I am. That is a perfect way to end this conversation. Although this is not, this is just the end of this one, and there
Okay.
will be many more to come.
Okay.
So, Dr. Eid, thank you so much for your
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you
I
for the
appreciate it.
conversation. And thank you, everybody, for listening. We will see you next time.